Hi lovely humans, if you already know me and you're back on this channel, hey, how you doing? And if you're new here, let me introduce myself. I'm Clara, I'm French, but I've had the privilege of traveling a lot around, and specifically I've lived in China for a year. I moved there to study at Fudan University in Shanghai, and I've also moved to San Francisco for 6 months for an internship. So I've done 2 big moves abroad. And when you kind of uproot your life like this for a semester or a year or longer, you gotta pack your shit. You're gonna move your stuff there. So this is a video about tips to pack your things for a move abroad. I'm gonna cover a lot of ground, and these tips are gonna be based on my personal experiences. And when I say experiences, I'm saying mistakes. A lot of these are gonna be based on mistakes I made. Often I made this mistake for my first move when I went to China. I did a bit better with my whole packing process for San Francisco. You can learn from this. We learn every time, you know, that's gross. Anyway, so these are going to be based on my personal experiences, and I would be really curious to hear your personal experience. If you moved abroad and you have tips at the end of this video, please leave them in the comments. I'm also going to be talking more specifically about moves that are made by plane, because I feel like if you are moving by car or truck, you have less restrictions. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into those tips. The first tip I want to give you is that you need to realize that you are going to have to leave things behind. You're going to have to leave things that are important to you behind. Unless you're already a real minimalist or you are planning on taking 4 suitcases with you, which I don't recommend, you're gonna have to leave things behind. That's not a big deal. If you're living for 6 months or a year, you'll find them again when you come back. In lots of cases, you can just buy the same thing abroad. And if you're staying there more long term and you can't buy the thing you want, then you can probably take it again when someone visits you or whatever. Point being, you are not gonna be able to take everything you would want to take with you on that move. And kind of be prepared in your head that you're gonna have to sacrifice a few things. Which brings me to my second point. Know how many pieces of luggage you're allowing yourself to take. Give yourself a goal, because it's gonna be difficult to choose from your belongings what you can take. It will be difficult to downsize what you're taking if you don't have like a clear goal of how much you're taking. So maybe you're the type of person who's just gonna move abroad with a carry-on. I know people who've traveled abroad with just a carry-on luggage. I haven't done it personally, but I have used this backpack to travel for like a month and a half, so pretty good. And also usually when you just travel with a carry-on, it's actually the main piece of luggage, backpack or suitcase, and a personal item. This is a pretty big purse, but that can count as personal item. Like, this is big enough for me to fit my computer and a bunch of things in it. So if you have like a backpack plus a personal item, you can probably do that. But most likely you're gonna want to have a checked-in luggage on top of your carry-on. And if you have checked-in luggage, how many suitcases do you want to have a checked-in luggage? I took 2 suitcases when I went to China, and I saw lots of other exchange students that had 2, 3, or 4 suitcases. Let me tell you, 1 is enough. Some people will say, duh, 1 suitcase is obviously enough. Who are those people taking 2 or 3 suitcases? They exist. I was one of them. I saw a bunch of them, which is why I'm saying this. 1 suitcase is plenty enough. It's more convenient at the airport, because juggling like 2 suitcases and your passport, not super convenient. And also it will be so much easier when you travel back, because for example in my case, at the end of my year in China, I wanted to travel for 2 months with just my backpack, so I had to send back to France the equivalent of 2 suitcases of belonging, which was way too much, especially considering that I didn't use everything that was in those 2 suitcases. You don't need everything that you're gonna fit in those 2 suitcases, and if you do, I don't understand how you work. Like, what do you actually need? So my third tip is, don't pack clothes, pack outfit. I've heard that so many times, but it is so true. If you like an item of clothing, don't automatically assume that because you like it, you're taking it. No. Imagine yourself in the situations you're gonna be in this new country and what outfits they're gonna require. Think about it. Are you going to be in a country where people dress up? Are you going to be in an environment where people value comfort and functionality over style? Are you going to do lots of outdoor things? Are you going to be more chilling in the library as a student or being in a professional environment? Are you going to go to clubs? Are you going to attend fancy events? Think about all of those, and based on that, you're kind of going to have ideas of the type of outfits you need and the type of outfits you need the most. Then just lay all your clothes out, just bring all your clothes out and see what outfits you can make with them. And the items of clothing that you can use for the most outfits and the most situations, those are the ones you want to take. If you have an item of clothing that you really like, but it only goes with like very specific other things and you can only use it in one type of situation, I'm sorry, but it has to go. That's just a waste of space. Since I was an intern, I packed over 20 work outfits, 20 outfits that I could wear in a professional settings. And that was only with 2 pair of pants, 5 tops, 2 sweaters, 2 jackets, and 1 coat. With all of that, you just accessorize it and you get over 20 outfits. Same applies for accessories. I am talking as someone who loves shoes, bags, jewelry, all that things. I just love accessories, but it's ridiculous how many shoes I took to China. Like, I'm ashamed. When I left for San Francisco, I actually sat down and tried to think about it realistically. The absolute maximum to take for a semester or a year, given that you're gonna have like different types of weather, is maximum 6 pairs of shoes. Don't take more than that. My 4th tip is to think about anything you use that might be difficult to buy abroad. Most things you can buy anywhere nowadays, like clothing, etc. If you don't have it, you can buy it. But there might be some specific things that, depending on the country where you're going, might be difficult to buy. For example, I brought tampons to China because I knew that they only sell pads over there and I prefer tampons, so I brought that with me. Other things could include, and that's more important, prescription drugs. If you have a prescription for a medicine that you take regularly or just even occasionally, might be good to just buy it where you live and take it with you. Have your doctor renew your prescription and buy enough medicine for 6 months or a year and just take it with you. It will be safer. Next, consider what electronics you want to take with you. Think about what you're actually going to use and what you actually really need. But be realistic about it, because when I went to China, I made the mistake of thinking that I would be fine with just my tablet, like my phone and my tablet, and I would not need my laptop. And it turns out that I do really prefer using my laptop over my tablet. So, and if you are big into photography and you have a lot of camera gear, well, you're gonna have to make some tough choices, like which part of your camera gear are you actually gonna use and which part can you leave behind. My 6th tip is that you probably don't need to bring books, CDs, DVDs, or any objects really, but you should probably bring a card deck and pictures. Let me elaborate a bit on that. You can download music, videos, ebooks, audiobooks, whatever you want on your phone or on a hard drive to take with you, so you don't actually need to physically take CDs or DVDs. You can probably take a book or 2 for the flight, but you don't really need that many. And other objects, you can probably buy anything you want at other places. I made that mistake before. If you really want to bring an object, be sure it's sentimental and actually useful. And I'm saying bring a card deck and pictures. Why? So the card deck is because it's actually a really fun way of connecting with people when you're traveling and when you're moving to a new country where you don't necessarily always speak the language. Games in general are always a fun way of interacting. Like, I have great memories of being in the Gansu province in China at our youth hostel and having girls in our dorm seeing us play cards, and so they gather around and we teach them the game we're playing, and then they teach us the game that they play, and we just have fun even if we don't always speak the same language, playing cards together. It's a good way to connect with strangers. And the pictures are just to have things, photographs of your family and friends around you, make yourself cozy and at home. That, of course, that's not necessary for everyone. but I did it when I went to China. Like, I had a bunch of pictures of family and friends, and I really liked it. It made me comfortable and feel at home very quickly. I thought it was not going to be necessary for San Francisco, honestly. I did not take any pictures with me to San Francisco, but I ended up regretting it. And like a few months in, I actually went out and got a bunch of pictures printed. Next on the list of things to do and not do when you're packing to move abroad, don't take food with you. Maybe that's controversial, but don't take food. Like, if there is like really a food that you love and that you think you're gonna miss when you're gonna be abroad, chances are there is probably a restaurant that serves it. And if not, do you actually think that you can take enough of this food with you to last you for 6 months to a year? Probably not. And like, there are so many things that can go wrong with food in a suitcase or in a carry-on. Like, there, you don't want to have something spilling or whatever. So I really recommend you not to take any food. At this point, you probably know what you actually want to take for this big move. So it's time to actually put it in your suitcase or backpack. My first tip for that is to roll your clothes and put them in packing cube. These techniques are my absolute savior. Superpose similar items of clothing, like same type, same size and length. Put at the bottom preferably something that is more colorful and recognizable, and then tightly roll it. That way you have something which is more compact, that takes up less space, but also it prevents your clothes from wrinkling. Double advantage. I am personally not big on folding, like I'm not great at folding clothes. I take a long time to do it. It's just complicated for me. So rolling things makes me gain time, gain space, just good on the whole line. And if you have some fragile objects that you want to take, you can just stuff socks in them and then put them in a roll of clothes. That way they will be extra protected. And then you put your roll in a packing cube. Packing cube allows you to have things more organized. You can have, for example, a packing cube for tops and jackets, a packing cube for pants, whatever. Like, you can kind of organize your clothes that way, and that way you know what is where. Packing cube are also super cheap. Like, I bought mine for 10 euros, I think, in China. And if you're traveling light with just a backpack, they prevent things from getting all mixed around. Other little tricks to save up space. Shoes and purses with socks and underwear. Basically any purses or things where you can put something in it, do it. Put the packing cube in a bag, whatever, just play Russian doll with your suitcase. Also put your coats or long items of clothing at the very bottom of your suitcase and put your packing cubes on top of that. That way, if you want to move and rearrange things around so it takes up less space when you close your suitcase, you won't have like a big coat in your way that you have to move around. It's at the bottom, it stays there. If you want to wear an extra layer of clothes to save up space in your bag, that's completely fine. Just be careful that you don't put that many layers on that they're going to be difficult to store once you're actually in the airplane. You don't want to have so many coats and sweaters that you're on your seat dying of heat because you don't actually have space in the overhead departments or under your seat to put out all these extra layers. Final tip: if you have a checked-in luggage, decide how you want to split your things between your carry-on and your checked-in suitcase. Because I had gotten so much better at packing between China and San Francisco, my carry-on situation was looking pretty good. I could have basically everything in my suitcase. It was just too heavy, so I put some of the extra weight in my backpack, but it was not a question of space. And so in my backpack I had a packing cube with some basic outfits, which was also good since you never know what can happen to a check-in luggage. It's always good to have in your carry-on some underwears and a few outfits. I also had a book for the plane and a freaking blanket, because I love my blanket and it was so cool to have a blanket on the plane, honestly. Really nice. And actually all the electronics, all the toiletries, everything that they make you take out at airport security, I put in my personal item, in my purse. That way I didn't have to search around my backpack for those things. They were all already in my purse. Super easy to grab and put out, already separated and prepared. If you haven't already stolen some of those like transparent plastic bags from airport, if you don't already have them, you can just use freezing bag, like the little plastic bag that you can buy at any supermarkets for your freezer. They are exactly the same. And that way you won't have like a hard time passing airport security, and it will go smoothly. By the way, if you would be interested in some more tips about handling airports and dealing with long-haul flights, please tell me in the comments and I'll make that happen. That's the end of this video. Please leave a comment if you have an opinion about the mistakes I've made, if you disagree with my tips, or if you want to add on to them. I would love to read what you have to say, and I'm sure it will help out some other people. If you like what you see, if you want to hear me talk about cultural shocks, life abroad, travels, you can subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me on Instagram to see more of my daily life in Paris, what I'm up to, and my photography. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this, and see you soon. It's like some Indian tea that I just put some cinnamon on top of all the other spices that were already in it, and then I added some lemon, some honey, and then I put it in the freezer so it's super cold. So I have some sort of like lemon Indian iced tea.